Hi there, my Tuesday people. Welcome to Threads Devotional. So glad you're with me. So glad. Remember that the video will be uploaded to YouTube on the CrossTies Ministry channel. So be sure and go there and give us a thumbs up or like or whatever you do on that stuff. I'm still new to YouTube, so I'm learning. Today we're gonna refresh ourselves with how we can weave together, keeping our theme of threads, how we can weave together our lives to continue to be the salt of the earth, the light of the world, and the sweet aroma of Jesus. I close almost every devotional every week with reminding us to do that. And so I decided maybe it was time that we back up and look at Matthew 5 and 2 Corinthians. Hi, Joey. I'm so glad you're with me. I want us to look at just a refresher, just a reminder. You know, Paul says several times, I'm writing this to remind you. And I just feel like we never stop needing to be reminded. So today we're going to refresh our minds on how we can be the salt of the earth and the light of the world and the sweet fragrance of Jesus. So Matthew 5 begins with Jesus seeing the crowds. He went up on the side of the mountain. He sat down. He gathered his followers and disciples around him, and he began to teach. And he began to teach simply by describing some attributes of the kind of person we should be. And without going into detail about what we call the Beatitudes, Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, those who mourn, the meek, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, the merciful, the pure in heart, the peacemakers, those who are persecuted because of righteousness, when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me." That's what Jesus, that's how he opened what we call the Sermon on the Mount, this incredible dissertation that we love so much, that begins in Matthew 5. Then, after describing these traits, Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." Now, Jesus makes two really important points here. First of all, his followers, he expects to be the salt of the earth. Whatever we're going to discover that is. And then, salt can lose its saltiness. So, you're to be the salt of the earth, but you can lose your saltiness. So here's where I have to go. First of all, salt is a seasoning. Don't eat those fresh green beans without salt, y'all. I know what the doctor says. Cut back on the salt, but don't try to eat those green beans without salt, especially if you're in the South. It's not going to work. I'm just telling you, salt is a critical seasoning. Salt is also a preservative. Okay, salt is a preservative, but it can lose its saltiness. Okay, how do preservatives stop preserving? This has been a question for years and years and years. I actually called a home economist one time and I said, how does salt stop preserving? And she says, it's a preservative. It doesn't lose its saltiness. And then she says, oh wait, if it's mixed with another chemical, if it's mixed with something else, it will lose its saltiness. Have you got that? When our salt mixes with something else, we lose our saltiness. Y'all, we live in the world, okay? We're that lotus flower. We are in gunky water, but we're having to push an inch above to bloom. Let's not let the gunkiness of the world overtake our saltiness, okay? We are the salt of the earth. Are we going to mess up from time to time? Oh my, yes, we are. But we only lose our saltiness when we mix with something else. Look, I went to the kitchen after I talked to this lady, and I put salt in my hand and I put sugar in my hand, and I stirred them up, and I couldn't separate it. It was lost. I didn't have sugar, I didn't have salt, and I certainly didn't have anything I was about to put in coffee or tea or sprinkle on green beans. It wasn't happening. So it got dumped. Took my hand to the garbage can and I dusted it off, and then I washed my hands, because what I had was not useful. It wasn't a preservative, nor was it a sweetener. So let's be very careful with how we mix, how we allow ourselves. And I am a firm believer in being kind to everybody in the world. I am a firm believer in making friends with people who are not just like me. But y'all, let's just be very careful how we mix. We want to be the example of Christ. So the salt can lose its saltiness. So let's put this into everyday life. Linda, how does this work? Now, y'all, I have no scholarly validation for this, okay? So just bear with me. But when you go to church on Sunday and you're all huggy and lovey and loving everybody, and then you go out to eat at a restaurant and you're all hoity-toity and treating the server like, they're the dregs of society, you've just contaminated your salt. I'm sorry, that sounds kind of blunt, but that's the way it is. If you treat another person less than the human being that God created, you've contaminated your salt. When you don't show mercy to another person who needs some mercy, you've mixed up your salt. When you argue and fuss and are all unkind to others because they disagree with you, you've contaminated your salt. It happens when we get all caught up in life, and all of a sudden what we think and what we think is right and what we want to do and all this takes over, instead of that very simple process of let me live for Jesus. Y'all, it's so incredibly simple. We forget. But that's how we're the salt of the earth, when we remember those attributes Jesus described, and that's our goal. Now, in Matthew 5:14 through 16, Jesus goes on to say, you are the light of the world. A town built on it. Let me start over. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father who's in heaven. Light is what we do. It's our actions, it's our behavior, it's our good works. Ephesians 2:10, Paul wrote, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Remember last week we talked about when God wove us together in our mother's womb? Psalm 139, he wove within us something that we can do, whether we want to call it a gift or a talent or just our light. He wove something in there that we can do, and that's what we're expected to do. our task is just to do whatever it is we can. Now, remember, the light does not draw attention to itself. When I walk in the house at night and flip on the overhead light, I don't look up to the light to go, oh, what a bright light. I look at the evidence of the light around me. I can see the chairs. I see the lamp. In the middle of the night, I don't look at my night light. I look at my path from the bed to the bathroom. That's where I want to look. That night light's a pretty important light for me in the middle of the night. So never ever think that because your light is not like somebody else's, it's not important. Whatever God wove together within you is important. We talked about that. We talked about that quite a bit last week. Now, here's the thing. Satan wants our salt mixed up. He wants our salt contaminated. He wants our light ineffective. He does not want our light shining brightly. And he is not proud, and he will do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And very simply, sometimes it's just, he has us comparing ourselves to other people. Well, my little light here of teaching on a Facebook Devo's nothing like my husband standing in the pulpit. My light must not be very important. I won't worry about doing this anymore. And Satan goes, yes, got her quiet. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Satan. If all I have is 2 people listening every week, I will share what I've learned with those 2 people, because you're not going to win. You're not going to dim my light and contaminate my salt. It's not going to happen. Don't let Satan win the comparison game. Let your light shine. He wants us tired and weary of doing good. He wants us giving up. Do not let him have it. Now, what about being that sweet aroma or pleasing fragrance? It kind of depends upon which translation you read, but they all mean the same thing. Something pleasant in aroma. 2 Corinthians 2:15, I have always loved this. It says, for we are to God the pleasing aroma of Christ among those who are being saved and those who are perishing. Now, again, this may sound very simple, but y'all, I'm a simple person, okay? But when we are the salt of the earth and we are letting our light shine, we will be creating a pleasant aroma in this world. You got a person with the attributes of poor in spirit, mourning with those who mourn, meek, hungering and thirsting for righteousness, being merciful, pure in heart, being a peacemaker, not getting all bent out of shape when you're persecuted for being a Christian. When you're living that life and you're living for Jesus, how can you not be a sweet aroma to him? And I think that's the bottom line in everything. We forget so easily because we want to please. I want to please those around me. But you know what? I have learned that when I live to please Jesus, those around me who matter will be pleased. That's just, they will be pleased. So let's remember that, okay? Christians should never be blasting others for how they live, but living our own lives in a way to be an example to everybody around us. That's how Jesus lived. Now, let's season our life, and let's let our lives shine by being the salt of the earth, the light of the world, and the sweet aroma of Jesus. Thank y'all so much for being with me. I love my Tuesday Threads, people. See you next time.